Jim, let me ask you another question, but then I know that this week you actually have some questions that were sent directly to you that we're going to get to, but...
Yeah, because I get equal time here. Some of these people are complaining to me that you're cherry picking. And the last thing we want is anybody picking their cherry on this program.
Well, let's see if this is the cherry on top. This question was sent in to CornyDriveThru@gmail.com from Chad Pierce. In Jim Ross's book, he talks about a meeting between him, Vince, and Linda McMahon, and the Ultimate Warrior in an effort to get the Warrior to come back to WWE. He states that Corny was present at this meeting as well. He goes on to say that the Warrior was fixated on the word destrucity and kept bringing it up over and over again. Jim, can you provide any details to this story or have any other Ultimate Warrior stories in general?
Well, it wasn't, this wasn't when Vince was trying to talk him into it. He pretty much was back, but I believe it was WrestleMania in Anaheim in 96. We were informed by Vince that me and Bruce and JR would be, because we traveled with Vince at that point, would be stopping in Phoenix to visit the Ultimate Warrior, who was going to tell us all about how, I don't know how this was presented, his philosophy, how he wanted to be presented, who the Warrior was, get the creative team all behind that type of deal, right? I'd never met the guy before in my life. I'd never been a fan of the Ultimate Warrior because that was the antithesis of, in my opinion, everything that was wrong with fucking wrestling business. This no talent fucking muscle-headed hack that had been pushed to the moon by a guy that was a fan of bodybuilders and by somehow fucking mass hypnosis was able to convince them for a short window of time in the late 80s that this guy could fucking wrestle and was somehow somebody you'd pay to see. His interviews were the shits. His matches were the shits. He never tried to learn. He didn't want to be one of the boys, and he never even apologized for breaking Bobby Heenan's neck, which Bobby told me that personally. So I really, was like, oh boy, this is going to be great. And I promise you, this meeting lived up to every single thing. We went to lunch at a nice chain restaurant. And then we went and saw his gym where he had a wrestling ring set up and he was talking about a wrestling school. And I couldn't hardly contain my fucking reaction to the thought of Ultimate Warrior teaching people to wrestle. But the whole thing he was talking, it was his, God damn it, Bruce, I'm sure, could do this perfectly. But Destrucity was destiny, truth, and something to do with city. I don't fucking know. And it was the goddamn philosophy that he was trying to push. And he had this, and he was out. It's hard to explain. At the end of spending 4 or 5 hours with him that day, I asked Vince the rest of them. I said, I didn't understand a goddamn word this fucking guy said all day. Is he out of his fucking mind? And they said, yeah, it's a Warrior. But it was his philosophies and the always believe and the face paint and Vince, I can see it's going to be huge. And I don't know what the fuck they were talking about. And it wasn't, what was it? Just a few months later, he had that comic book coming out also. And this is when he had run through all the fucking heels and beat them flat and buried them in short order. And then decided to no-show for whatever reason. He was upset that his father had died, even though he had before in his life said he hated his father and he hadn't seen him in these many years. But suddenly when he started no-showing is because his dad had died. But then even after the funeral, he wouldn't come back. And then he was mad because they had a branding show, a toy fair, some kind of fucking big wing ding in New York. And the WWF had already had a booth scheduled and built. But since Warrior had just signed a contract to come back to the WWF, they wanted him to be represented. So they put his face paint and his logo, Always Believe, on the side of the booth with the other stars, stuff. And he got hot at that because they were using his logo without fucking permission. But if Vince was to buy 1 million copies of the comic book that he had coming out at that point at $1 a piece, then he would consider, well, that's okay. Then we'll drop the whole thing. And that would be a considerable makeup for Vince to do. And Vince had the appropriate reaction of, are you out of your fucking mind? I'm not buying $1 million fucking dollars worth of your comic books. And then I think that's when Vince put Warrior on the deal where I will prorate your fucking money. I think like he did with Sid. I'll prorate your fucking money if you show up. And he didn't, I don't know what the fuck that was. And then we didn't have to deal with the Ultimate Warrior anymore. And I was so fucking happy. And I've learned to like him even less since I've heard all the things that he said about politics and gay people and his right-wing fucking nutcase, goddamn space fucking cadet conspiracy theories and all the rest. He was an unsavory human being. He was a discredit to our business. And I'm sorry he's dead. But it didn't change who the fuck the prick was in life. So what do you want me to say?
All right, Jim, I understand you have some questions for the listeners.
Well, I mean, what the fuck? No, what the fuck? It's just, anyway.
Did anyone there ever say what he was like when he first got in or when he first started getting a push? Was he always nuts and they didn't think it would get out of control? Or did them making him the champion, him making all that merch money, did it go to his head? Did anyone ever say what he was like before you got there?
Well, I don't know much about, I think a little of both. I think he never understood the wrestling. That's why Watts kicked him out of Mid-South. He never understood the wrestling business or never, I mean, Sting, I think he wrote a book. I'm sure he did. Everybody else has. But I remember reading something that Sting wrote about Warrior early in their career, just, that he didn't get why, these people that are smaller or not as fucking well built as him should be able to beat him. He never got it from Phil Hickerson, who would have pulled his fucking eyeballs out and shoved them up his ass after chewing on them in a real fucking fight anywhere in the vicinity of Jackson, Tennessee. But he never got it. And Vince was the perfect place for him to go to not ever have to get it. Because all Vince wanted was the appearance and the body and have guys bounce off of him and he could smash the fucking piece of shit over. But he's the female Sable to me. Somebody that.
Well, the male Sable.
Well, there you go. Well, you never know. I mean, Sable could have had a questionable start in life. She had. But no, it's one thing to take guys who aren't great performers and make money with them. That's been done in wrestling since the dawn of time. But it's more palatable when they are cooperative and when they realize that what you're doing for them and that they don't know everything. But when they get big fucking heads and think they're the biggest goddamn star in the business and everything has been handed to them and catered and choreographed around them and they are actually useless except for the way that they look when they're standing there stock still. Fuck those people. I'm saying, give the opportunity to somebody else, in my opinion. But anyway.
Hey, you mentioned that Sting book before. Did you hear about that book?
Apparently not.
It stunk.
What?
No, I'm sorry. Bad joke there. But anyway, continue on.
Sting stunk. Oh, God. Wait a minute. Hold on. All right.